Okay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am here with Kayla today, and we kind of have a different topic on the schedule. We're going to talk about living donors and what that looks like. So, Kayla donated a portion of her liver to her mother in law. How long ago was that now?
May of 2019.
Oh my gosh, has it been that long?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And I am gearing up to donate a kidney to my dad. So, I wanted to talk about it from what's going on from my viewpoint as somebody heading into it, and then wanted to bring Kayla on because she's a couple years out from it.
Mhm.
And I have found in my journey that most people don't even know what a living donor is and that that's even a possibility. So before you donated, was that something you had even heard of?
Yeah. I was actually a Grey's Anatomy fan at the
Oh,
time, and Meredith Grey had done the liver donor for her dad on the show, and I thought, oh, that was pretty neat. But her recovery, everything that happens on the show, is not real life. I
yeah.
mean, it's all chalked up to be something else, but yeah, that's how I heard of it. So when my mother-in-law was diagnosed with, it was like fatty liver disease. It
Mm,
was non-alcoholic related. Um, that was my first question was, can we do a living donation? And it was kind of brought to the table, but she kind of had to get worse before
mhm.
we could go through with the evaluation and the procedure to see if I was even a match.
Wow. So how long was it from when she was diagnosed with that till the donation actually happened?
I feel like it was October or November, I believe, of 2018. And I went to, I donated blood first because I had no idea what my blood type was. So I started there to see if I was even going to be a match to move forward with the evaluation. And at that time, she wasn't on the list. Her MELD score, I think it um, wasn't where it needed to be put
Mhm.
on the list.
Oh,
But
okay.
definitely with the living donation, if it's a directed donation, then the process could move a whole lot quicker once she gets on the list.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it was May of 2019. So she actually she did get worse
Mm,
quicker than
mhm.
we expected. But I was already in the process of everything to get it going.
Yeah, and that's great. Yeah, we're looking at about 3 years that it took, but a lot happened with us where he got some leg wounds and,
Mhm.
they got really, really bad, and, ended up on both legs, and then I ended up getting pregnant, and then
Mhm.
everything happened with Bodhi dying, and the leg wounds were still healing, and it took me quite a while just physically and emotionally to
Right.
come back from or to even consider like, okay, yeah, now we can look at that. And so I and we'll talk about the process. So, I knew I was a blood type match, and then because he's my dad, obviously 50%
Mhm.
genetically a match. And then the only thing, so right away I called my a friend of mine who is a retired nephrologist, and he was like, well, unless any of you have had a weird accident where you got a ton of blood, usually you're going to be a match. So
Mhm.
I already kind of knew that the chances were really, really good for me to
Mhm.
be a match, but then there's so much extensive physical testing.
Mhm.
And so then it was like, okay, am I going to be healthy enough, or am I going to need to lose weight, or all these kinds of things. So it is a really for me, I had 2 days of testing in Pittsburgh, plus extra testing that I had to do from home. And then I think that was it then, those 2 days. So what was it like for the liver? Like what kind of testing did you have to go through? Was it pretty similar?
Probably a lot of the same stuff. Mine was a 1 day evaluation. You had to talk to social worker,
Hmm.
psychologist, to go through all of the questioning. They did blood tests. Um, it was a long, long day for that. That was
Yeah.
more exhausting than
Yeah.
anything. But um, I set kind of comes in waves of memory, you know.
Yeah.
My
Yeah. You're like, that was a
first
long
day
time
was
ago. I can't remember
really
yesterday.
good. Yeah, mine was only one day.
Okay.
Health wise, I was fine. My age, everything, all of that was good. I didn't
Mm,
have to do any extra exercising or anything to lose weight. So my mother-in-law and I are kind of comparable in size as far as height and weight. So
mhm.
that was also a plus along with the blood match.
Yeah.
And with blood matches, you know, not everybody's compatible. I'm an O positive, she's an O negative.
Hmm.
Um, O can donate to pretty much everybody, but they can't receive A or B.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was my first sign of, hey, let's go through with this. I'm a blood
Yeah. Absolutely. And that is the one thing with a liver donor is you do have to be similar in size.
Yeah.
So that is one caveat that people have to look at for that. For the kidney, as long as you're the blood and
Mhm.
type match, then you're good to go. So yeah, I think the 2 days was because I had to do the GFR the first day, the I forget what it stands for, but because if you don't pass that, then you can't go any further. It's how your
Mhm.
kidneys filter. But it was perfect. So, I got to move on to talking to the whole team and
Mhm.
um, continuing the testing. So, an interesting thing that I found out is that we're really lucky because I have another friend going through it right now, and she did not talk to the doctor ahead of time. She did not have this, she's not had the same information and
Mhm.
support that we got because you were through the Startzel
Yeah,
Center
so
as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we're both going to be going through the UPMC Startzel Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I guess that's not the case everywhere around the country. So,
Yeah, there's limitations with different
hmm
hospitals in different areas. You would think it would kind of be a universal procedure,
hmm
but not. Just
yeah.
even the way that they cut into you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've seen a lot because I'm in some of the Facebook groups that you had
Mhm.
recommended for the living donor. And then people looking at it for potential and then support. And yeah, seeing all the different scars that people have post surgery. It's like, oh, it's the surgeon's discretion.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what made you even open to that decision? Because I know a lot of people have been shocked that I have been willing to do this because it's
Mhm.
not like it's not even a knee surgery. Like this is like
No.
removing an organ. It's a pretty committed decision. So what
It
made it okay for you in your mind to go forward with it?
it was just never a question,
Mhm.
you know, why would you do it? Why wouldn't you do it? For me, it was when can I get started? You know, what's the next step? What do I have to do? I, I really don't know if it was the Grey's Anatomy that was, hey, let's see what they're doing. But
Yeah.
no, it wasn't as simple as Grey's Anatomy, but uh, it was, she needed it. I'm like, okay, I knew about it. And to me, it wasn't ever the procedure. I wasn't looking at any of the negatives of it.
Mhm. Yeah.
I was focusing on the positive outcome of everything. But the funny part is, you tell a lot of people, hey, I donated half of my liver to my mother in law. Your mother in law? Like, yeah, I do. Not a problem. No
Yeah, I
question.
feel like most people don't even talk to their mother-in-laws, let alone consider giving them an organ.
Yeah.
So,
Like, I kind of really like her. So
yeah, you
put
want to
her
keep
around
her
for a
around.
while. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and that is the interesting thing where, when I called my friend, the nephrologist, he's like, well, what did your husband say? And I was like, it's not really his choice. Like,
Yeah.
this is my body and my dad. And of course, we've had some conversations since,
Mhm.
especially with having a son that died and, um, our Ian has been really freaked out about death and dying since then. And he's had a lot of questions about that. And so, it's not something that I took lightly, but also I think like you, I'm focusing on, okay, I'm giving somebody their health and life back.
Mhm.
And I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm strong. So I don't doubt that I can recover from this.
Mhm.
So Yeah.
And at the time, my daughter was in first grade. So and that was the week that I was in the hospital was the longest that I had ever been away from her.
Mm.
And the hospital was such a blur. You can't, with just the recovery and the medication that you're on, everything was such a blur. So I did get to talk to her a little bit. She didn't really have a whole lot of questions other
Mhm.
than I was just there to help Nanny.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's a good way to frame it to them because yeah, that's what we're doing. We're helping them and we'll deal with what we need to deal with on the other side of that, you know? And so, um, now was everybody in your family supportive of you doing it, or was there any questions from people outside?
There were a couple, I mean, everybody, when it came down to it, they were all supportive. It was, are you sure you want to do this? You have a young child at home,
Mhm.
or I can't believe you're doing this. This is so great.
Mhm.
They would expect this from me. Um, but by the time they came around to it and they actually learned, you learn so much going through all of the evaluation and the medical terminology and everything that that's just how I explained it to them also. They're just gonna it regenerates. And that's a
Mhm.
lot of thing or that's one thing that a lot of people don't know is that the liver does regenerate.
Yeah.
So
How freaking cool is that? I
I know.
mean, it's like
And
you're a starfish.
yeah, it is. It's really neat to just read about all of that and learn all of that too. Um, it doesn't grow the same way. It kind of grows down, so it's kind of shaped like this.
Mhm.
And they took 50% of my left lobe, so the left lobe itself doesn't just grow back; it fills in the space. The whole thing
Mm.
expands and they fill in that space. So mine kind of elongated down the right side of my
Yeah.
body. The intestines filled in the empty space where the left lobe was.
So interesting.
It
Like
is.
so fascinating. And
Almost makes you want to be a doctor, but
yeah, but not quite. Um, well, and I know same thing with the kidney. I think people just assume you're going to be at 50% kidney function, but your remaining kidney does grow. And so, most of the time people get up back up to 75% function. And so, and I mean, there's people out there floating at like 46%, and doing okay. So yeah, you're like 75% is just fine. And I'm gonna definitely use the mental intention setting of, yep, we're getting to 75 plus
yeah.
as we come back. um, and when I was in Slovenia for that conference, I, just happened, quote unquote, just happened to run into a lady and we were talking and I don't even know how it came up. And her grandmother was one of the very first kidney donors to her sister,
Wow.
and she lived to be in her 90s. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I needed to run into you. I needed to
Yeah.
talk to you. I needed to hear that because obviously the advances are massive since then. And for her to have lived that long and led a healthy, active life, I just needed that validation.
Mhm. We were also part of a study. It was called leukapheresis. It was a procedure where they took my blood, separated the white blood cells and the red blood cells, filtered the red back through, and then kind of preserved the white blood cells. And then they froze them. And then a week before surgery, my mother in law then got them infused. So she
Hmm.
received my white blood cells, and it was kind of just your body welcoming these white blood cells.
Mm-hmm.
Received my liver, they kind of had some familiar territory in there, and they only took, I think, they took 12 or 14 pairs to do
Hmm.
this study on, and geez, I think we were number 12 at the time. But the ultimate goal was to not have to take anti-rejection
Yeah.
medication, and she's off of it. Yeah,
Wow.
after 2
That's
years
so cool.
off of it. And strangely enough, the very first people, the first or second people in this study were from Punxsutawney.
No way.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
The girl
gosh.
that I graduated with that donated to somebody that needed it, and her the one that received her liver was the very first person in the United States to be taken off of the anti-rejection medication
Wow.
because of that
Oh, I just
procedure.
got chills. That
Yeah,
what are the chances that they're
I know,
the same?
medical advancement, and you meet so many people
Yeah.
through the just
Hmm.
online forums like you're probably in. Um, I met a lady that is also from Pennsylvania, and another one from Vermont, and she's the one that's actually the dual donor that I
Hmm.
talked about earlier. And we meet up. They would come for their follow up procedures, and we would meet up in Pittsburgh and go to dinner and just you
Yeah,
meet
share
so many
swap stories. Yeah.
people.
Yeah, it's really neat. I have a friend that I've met online. I'm hoping to meet him in person sometime this year, and he donated both a kidney and a liver.
Mhm,
And then yeah, there's a lady that I met through the online forum. She's going to be
mhm.
donating in Pittsburgh, and she's like, "Let's meet up when I come into town." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah,
So it is just neat to
yeah,
share and have people that understand what you're going through too. I
yeah.
think that's important.
And both of those ladies were non-directed. They
Mm,
just
mhm.
signed up to be a donor. And the
Wow.
one actually donated to a little girl. I think she was around 2 at the time, because she smaller liver, so she was
Mhm.
to a child. And then the dual donor, both adults. But the one that donated to the baby, she stayed in the same room that I was in. So it was, yeah, the
One
connections
of those
just,
cool synchronicities. Yeah. Yeah. So you and I are both doing a directed donation,
yeah.
which where we knew the recipient, we purposefully went in with the intention of donating to them. Now there's another option of a non-directed donor. So that's where you just know that you want to give, but you don't necessarily have somebody that you want to give for. Also, you could have a person but you're not a direct match to them. So then when you donate, it starts a chain of other donations. So
Mhm.
you're donating to your best match, and then it kind of goes down the line. There's a whole computer system that they use. And then the person who you donate on behalf of gets moved to the top of the list
Mhm.
basically. So yeah, there's a couple different ways to donate, and that's a neat thing too. Like I don't know if I would have donated I not had my dad not needed it. Like I don't know that it would have crossed my mind. Now I had decided that if I wasn't a match to him, I would still donate and then just allow him
Mhm.
to have the voucher to move to the top of the list. So
Right. I honestly couldn't do it. I couldn't do a non-directed one.
mhm.
I mean, I was going in with the purpose of knowing who I was giving to.
Yeah.
And that is one of the questions that they ask, that, okay, once we open you up, if something happens that she cannot receive this liver, are you willing to give to somebody else? Well, obviously at that time, yeah,
Little too late.
I'm already here. Yeah. I mean, they could just sew you back up,
Yeah. I
but
mean, you're like, I already did the bowel clean out. I might as
yeah.
well.
But I think those are the brave people that do the
Yeah.
non-directed stuff.
You
It's
know,
just
because I'm a thinker, I'm an overthinker. I kind of pondered on that. Would it be easier to not know? Because I do think that there is some judgment that can go into it. Like,
mhm,
you're like fatty liver disease, but non-alcoholic. But what
mhm,
if the person was an alcoholic? Or,
mhm.
what if it wasn't, if it was lifestyle choices, and then
Or if it
because
wasn't their first.
yeah, their
Yeah.
first one. And yeah, or them. So are they taking good care of your organ? You're like,
Uh-huh.
I went through all this, so you better take care of that organ.
Right.
So, I went through all of that in my mind of like, could it be easier if you don't know the person? Because then you're not having as much judgment or expectation. So I realized that I needed to work on that and let go of those kinds of things so that I
Right.
could give and just like once it's gone, like it's yours. So
Mhm.
you do with it
Yeah.
as you see fit, kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah. So do you feel like you had any reservations about that, or were you like, nope, once you have it, you kind of make your choices and live your life? And
I know her lifestyle, so
yeah.
it wasn't. It was just she's taking care of it.
Yeah. It's a nice little gift.
Yeah.
So does she have any other daughters-in-law?
She does. But going back to all the evaluations, other health concerns. I mean, I have hypothyroidism, but that didn't play a factor in holding me back from moving forward with anything. So the slightest health conditions that anybody
Yeah.
could have, you can't do
Ye
it.
I know, it's crazy. I was just gonna say, are you her favorite daughter-in-law? So that was all.
Depends on who's listening.
Um, yeah, that's what else I found out because I just went in with the assumption, like, of course I'm gonna be medically able to donate and never even considered that
Hmm.
something might kick me out, and then have come to find out that many people have tried
Hmm.
and one health condition or another kicks them out of being able to do it. So it's pretty remarkable that you were able to and that, I was able to without we were like the first choice and it worked.
Yeah. There were other people lined up, but we had a couple. And that's always something, it's hard to ask for something like that. That's how
Yeah.
my mother-in-law was. She was like, how do I do this? So of course
Yeah.
Facebook, but I had already started the procedure, and we kind of had a backup plan for
Hmm.
somebody to try after me if I wasn't going to be the match, but we didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I know. That's the interesting thing because, that's what so I've heard kind of two things where my dad was like, I would never ask you to do this. And I was like, well,
Mhm.
you're not asking, I'm offering. So that's
Right.
different. But then also, I feel like people outside of the situation or that have never had to make kind of life or death decisions, they're like, well, I would never take a kidney from my child. And I'm like, if you're facing death or like dialysis that's miserable, come back and talk to me then
Yeah.
because it's so different when you are truly facing your own mortality.
Mhm.
Um, to say like, yeah, this is available. This is a solid procedure with excellent outcomes. So
Mhm.
why not? It's
Yeah.
available. So,
And that's where other people's perspectives and comments come into play too. Like, ha- that's kind of where they went. Well, I would never ask somebody for that.
mhm.
They weren't asking.
Yeah,
It's a medical condition. This is what's available that can fix it and save you. I'm just going for it.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And I guarantee that and I mean, I try to live my life like that. If, with empathy of given the same circumstances, could I have made that same decision, even when people make bad decisions or,
mhm.
things like that, really trying to take that breath, take that step back. And so I just realized most people don't think along those lines. They're like, well, I wouldn't do that. But really, if you're facing life or death,
Yeah,
you're gonna do anything you can
you
to
really have to get into the situation to
yeah.
make that judgment call.
Yes, exactly. Walk a mile in somebody's shoes before you cast judgment. But yeah, I know. Well, it's kind of funny because I'm having a hard time even asking for like meals. Like I set up the meal train
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, I probably would have a hard time asking for a kidney if I can't even ask for meals.
Yeah. Our church set that up for us, and my
Yeah.
mother-in-law, actually, she didn't have the best recovery. She was in the hospital for an additional 5 weeks before
Oh,
she
wow.
came home for the first time, and then jaundice and everything else kicked
Mm,
in, and she had to go back and then was in there for a few more weeks. I can't remember the exact length of time that her stay was, but the church had set up so it was me eating. My daughter is so picky. It wouldn't
yeah.
have mattered who brought what. And my husband often works away. So
Mhm.
I said, I appreciated everything, but then I was overloaded with all this food too that I
Yeah.
didn't want to go to waste. So
Yeah. You're
it's
like,
like,
who wants to come over and eat? Yeah, so I know I'm very nervous about that side of it. I'm confident about myself, but I am hoping that, he's feeling good right away, but I know that there's also the possibility that it could take a while for him
yeah.
to be in good shape. So,
And it wasn't even, it was other complications. It wasn't so much the actual liver. The liver
mhm,
numbers, every time they ran tests on it, the liver numbers were good for her. There were other recovery complications
mhm.
that she was
Yeah.
going that she had to stay down there, and that was
Yeah.
hard. But we kept the support, and we went and visited her, and
Yeah,
we
that's great. Yeah. That's what I'm thankful we're close enough that I don't have to stay the whole week until that first
Mhm.
post-op appointment. But then I was like, oh, but my dad's still gonna be there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, we'll make it work. But
Our surgery was on a Monday. I was home that Friday, and I had my 3-week checkup, and I was back to work.
wow. Yeah,
But
that's
one of the questions that they ask you, if or what do you do for work? Are you going to be missing out on a lot? I said the heaviest thing I lift is my sandwich at lunch. So
yeah.
I sit at an office desk all day. I think I was going to be okay.
Yeah, that's what yeah, so there are lots of questions like that. I know that friend that is donating, she didn't even know that she couldn't drive for 3 to 4 weeks. They didn't even tell her that. And so, Matt had to sign off and say, "Yes, I'm going to drive her. Yes, I'm going to take care of her."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I told them. I was like, "I can do telehealth for at 3 weeks or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever." So yeah, I'll be able to go back, hopefully be able to go back to work. But they actually, with the kidney, will discharge you the next day,
Mm-hmm.
some of the time. And then some people stay 1 or 2 more days beyond that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it could be just an overnight stay,
Yeah.
which is mind
They
boggling.
think, oh, I just donated my kidney. I'm no
Just send
problem.
back home.
That's what so many people said to me. Like, you were only out of work for 3 weeks. And there again, it was the whole big picture and the positive outlook. I'm like, well,
Mhm.
yeah, like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't I be back to work 3 weeks later? But
Yeah.
you have to think of all the muscle that they're cutting through to get to that organ. And
Mhm.
I can understand the driving. You have to
Yeah.
turn, you have to look and
Mhm.
check for cars. That is stressful on your body, but
Yeah, I know my surgeon said, like, yeah, 3 to 4 weeks of no driving, no heavy lifting, and then, to not engage the core muscles for, like, 6
mhm,
weeks because he really wants the fascia to
yeah.
come back together and everything. So, yeah, so that'll be interesting. But he's worked on top or, professional athletes being in Pittsburgh. There's
Mhm.
been some professional athletes that have donated or different things. So I'm like, okay, I feel confident that I can get back to my mom workouts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting to think about this. It's truly giving a gift that not many people ever do in their life.
Right.
Yeah, it's so neat.
It's one of my few major accomplishments in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I just did, when we did that presentation, we did 3 fun facts. I'm
Mhm.
definitely updating my fun facts
Yeah.
to I donated a kidney,
Yeah.
adding that one in.
And here we are 5 years later, and it's you almost forget about it.
Mhm.
Every once in a while, if I'm laying a certain way, I'll joke around, oh, my liver, like, because I feel like I can feel it more because it grew the way that it did.
Yeah.
Or if I'm trying to get out of something, I'll cramp onto my side. Oh, I can't, my liver's hurting. It doesn't always work. That's
No.
so full-time worker, full-time mom, you have to
Yeah.
do all.
Yeah, you just gotta get back to it. You can't, yeah, there's no babying that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, it was so good to talk with you. Thanks, for kind of chiming in on this topic. And is there anything else you can think of that you kind of want to share with people? I know you said that non-direct would be difficult for you to consider, but, for people out there that maybe don't know somebody that needs or, doesn't know them directly, what are your like things for them to think about in donating? Like what would you recommend for them to consider?
Honestly, you it's a selfish thought. You have to think of your lifestyle and how it's going to affect you
Yeah.
in the long run. Yes, you're doing this phenomenal thing and you're saving a person. Um, but yeah, that's whatever I said earlier about I don't think I could do a non-directed to start off with. If I didn't know
Hmm.
anybody, to just say, hey, yeah, I'm going to go do this. I feel like that's something that I need to do. I don't think that thought would have ever came across my mind, but
Hmm.
knowing somebody that needed it, it was just second nature to me. But it's, you have to be very selfish about making that decision of how it's going to affect your life.
Yeah, definitely. And, I don't know if there's a database or whatever, but now that I'm on those pages, there are families posting like this child needs a kidney, this
Mhm.
person needs a liver. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like if that got out more, I think
Yeah.
people would look at that poor baby's face and say like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, let me go get tested, because it is a commitment. Obviously it's going to
Yeah.
change your health for a while. You have a big recovery. You have to have the finances, the time off of work. You have to have the support at home. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but yet also that's a blip in your
Mhm.
life. When you think of 3 weeks,
Mhm.
like I've sat around on the couch for 3 weeks for no good reason
Yeah.
before, not being productive. So,
Yeah. I took my
it's,
daily walks. I have a long list of movies that you could
yeah,
probably.
yeah, I've been compiling my list of books and shows, and I'm like, it's like 2 weeks that I'm planning on like completely taking off. It's going to fly by. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to feel like that long. So,
Mhm.
um,
You get bored. You definitely get bored, but
yeah.
you have to also listen to your body. If you're feeling
Hmm.
exhausted, don't push it.
Yeah.
Take that rest. You have to do it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm gonna, with even going back to work, even just um talking to people all day, that is kind of exhausting. And so, it's like emotional and taxing. So
Mhm.
I definitely am gonna try to space appointments out just so that they deserve my best too. So I don't want to
Yeah.
come in half half speed to be providing services for them. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna embrace listening to my body and
Yeah.
allowing that recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything else you can think that you want to share?
Mm, oh, I don't know if it's the same with the kidney donation as it is the liver, but they take your gallbladder
Mm,
with the liver donation. Do they do that with kidney also?
nope. That was one
I
thing I
didn't
was
have mine
concerned
anyhow, and
about.
mine was out a long time ago, so I didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, I was worried about the adrenal glands since they sit
Mhm.
on top of the kidney, but they leave those and
Mhm.
just take the kidney. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably think of something
Yeah,
for
after we get off here. It's okay. Yes, but yeah, truly thank you for coming on and just shedding light on this topic, because I do think it's important for people to consider. But there's also egg donation, there's bone marrow donation, even just blood donation. My
Yeah.
mom used to do apheresis, and that was
Mhm.
a longer process where they would spin the blood down. But all of that stuff is needed. And
Yeah.
even if you get know your blood type, or get on the donor like the marrow, there's a registry, so
Mhm.
there are options out there to even just put your name in and see if it's a possibility for you. But I know that it definitely feels good to be able to do this for somebody, just
Mhm.
knowing how miserable he has been,
Right.
to be able to give him back that health and that ability to travel. And um yeah, like there's no match for being able to do that for somebody.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we're awesome. No, I'm just kidding.
I've always said too that, I didn't do it for the glory.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
didn't want anything, any recognition for it. It was just
Yeah.
second.
Yeah. It's a no brainer. It was a no brainer for me. I think I am sharing just because I want to raise awareness.
Right.
Yeah, like I'm not sharing to get the pat on the back. It's more so like, hey, this is out there. Consider it. Ask around. Maybe somebody who needs something and they just haven't spoken up yet.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a neat, I'm excited to be part of the selfless group that does this. But I hope that more people do that. There's lots of statistics out there, and I'll include that whenever I share this post of how
Mhm.
many people a day die waiting for an organ. So when
Yeah.
you see those numbers and start putting faces and families to that, you realize it's worth it to consider it. So,
Yeah. Yep.
all right. Well, thank you for being on, and thank you all for listening, and definitely reach out with any questions, with any thoughts. And yeah, have a good night, everyone, or whenever you listen to this, day, night, morning.
Yeah.